Right. So, what is it about money that brings out the worst in conflict? Financial stress activates our brain's threat detection system. Historically, a lack of resources signaled danger, and our evolutionary wiring has made it to where money is one of them, one of the most vital tools in order for us to survive. And oftentimes financial disagreements doesn't just feel like a tool problem, it feels like a survival problem. And so arguments end up escalating really quickly because there's a lot at risk. At least that's what our nervous system is processing and detecting, instead of it being a logistical disagreement. So, one of the things that's really important to expand on this conversation around finances is that people come into relationship with their own set of financial beliefs. Most people don't create their own financial belief. It is inherited through their exposure of their parents or their social environment, which helps to create the belief system around finances. If you grew up with scarcity, watching parents have arguments about money, financial instability, or witnessing financial secrecy or control, these experiences consciously and unconsciously infiltrates into how we view money. Take two people with very opposing views on finances, you're bound to have colliding belief system. What I've discovered in my practice is that financial conflict at its core is derived from a sense of control. Because money for everyone represents your autonomy and power within the relationship. Sometimes that power is viewed as being equal, where both people are high earners, or it could be one or another. And so when you have autonomy and freedom and agency around finances, and then you happen to be in a dynamic where your partner might not have that same privileges or access, you can't help but identify that there is a major power imbalance, and that one person, because they are the earner, typically believes that they need to have a say in how the money is spent. And this is often interpreted and felt by the other partner as very controlling. What happens when you have a power imbalance in the relationship fueled by finances? The first thing that typically happens, which feels really crappy, is secrecy around finances. If you have a partner who's very strict about how money is supposed to be spent, the other partner might find ways to hide their spending. Or it can create resentment, feeling like they're having to go and ask permission for how money is spent by the other person, and having more or less a gatekeeper dictating how they're supposed to spend. Notice the controlling aspect, regardless of who has the money or not, both of these people end up feeling resentment towards each other. And something that needs to be stated is that the person who earns the money might have other stressors like job insecurity, to having to be responsible for debt, and they experience so much pressure from these aspects that when their partner isn't involved or isn't holding their share of that particular responsibility, all the pressure can then go into the partner who's trying to resolve debt and trying to find ways to earn more money. If you can tell, it's not one person or the other when it comes to who's at fault or who's not. Is how both people are carrying the weight of this financial responsibility can be both excruciating and taxing. And if not worked well together, there's going to be conflict and a lot of resentment. So how do you navigate these conversations? Let's go to the most non-threatening place, which is your belief system. Having a curious conversation, what your standpoint and your belief system is from your childhood, is a really great place to talk about. And the reason being is that you get to see how A human being goes from coming into this world never knowing about money to how they are influenced and shaped by the upbringing, by parents, by their social environment. Having a conversation about belief system takes the blame out of one person, but helps to illuminate a sense of curiosity of where these belief systems really got shaped. From there, it is so important to separate values from logistics. Couples benefit from having shared priorities such as travel, family support, retirement, lifestyle goals. And once values are aligned, budgeting decisions become easier. And let me go into a little bit more about values. Values is rooted in maybe a sense of security for the future, having an emergency fund, thinking about our well-being in the future should the worst happen. Also, another value can be having access to experiences that are important, that's nourishing for you, for your partner, or even for your family. When you can actually talk about what do I value most that money can actually give me, and then knowing the logistics of how we are actually going to save or spend the money into different categories, when you can separate those two discussions, it helps to create clarity and know how and what your partner is trying to bring to the table. Are we having a conversation about values around money, or are we having a conversation about logistics of the money? To be able to distinguish between the two can absolutely ensure a lot more clarity in this conversation. From there, it is so vital to have transparency around your finances. One person should not have the sole responsibility of all things money. It is a joint effort. You're in a mutually loving, respectful relationship. So everyone should be able to know, at least on a temperature gauge, where everyone's at in terms of their finances. It's so important to have open financial information, like how much is in bank accounts. Shared planning discussions, like where is the money going to be allocated in, and that there isn't any hidden debt or credit cards, because the moment you have these experiences, it is going to create a ripple effect in the relationship. Transparency is so important because it reduces suspiciousness and resentment. And finally, the moment one person has to ask the other person permission, you have a power imbalance. And I want you to think about it to make it even non-threatening, is think about you having to ask your parents for money when you were a kid. There was truly a power imbalance between what you could ask and what you couldn't ask for, and how it made you feel. So when you're in this adult relationship with your partner, and one person is asking and the other one is giving permission, that can create a really toxic, non-collaborative relationship. If you want to go deeper, go to my website at intimacyinprogress.com. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss out on future conversations like this.